Hello, my little chickpeas. Today we're going to be talking about a new subject. We're entering Unit 2. And for Unit 2, we're going to be starting with ratios. At the top of our page, let's go ahead and write ratios nice and big like a header. Okay. And a ratio is a special kind of number, all right? So like always, I like to define some stuff before we get started. So the first thing I want to define is what is a ratio? Okay, so let's go ahead and write our definition for ratio. Remember, if I'm writing too fast or I'm speaking too fast, pause the video, slow it down for yourself, and make sure you're able to get everything that I'm writing down onto your notes paper. Okay? All right, so a ratio is a comparison or relationship of two numbers by division. Okay. The next word I want to make sure we understand is quantity. And quantity is an amount or a number of something. It's a count of something. Okay, so those are our definitions, and I'm gonna kind of explain this to you just by showing you an example. Okay, so here's the thing: a ratio is a relationship between two different items, the amount that you have of two different items. So for instance, if I said in our class, and this isn't true, but let's just say I said in our class, we have 10 girls and 11 boys. That would be my ratio. I have 10 girls to 11 boys. So notice that the girls and the boys are different. I couldn't say I have 10 girls to 11 girls. Can't say that. That's not a ratio. Has to have different items that we're counting, okay? And we're connecting them through a relationship. The relationship is that they're all students. So my ratio is showing the relationship of all my students by girls and boys, okay? So I'm just going to write a sample ratio. A to B. All right. So this right here in the middle is called a colon, all right? And this is one way that we can write a ratio. There's another way I can write a ratio. When I just wrote this, I said A to B. So the other way we can write it is A to B. And there's one more way that we can write it. There's another way we can write a ratio, and we can say A to B. And remember, if we go back to our definition, I said it was a relationship through division, right? Division isn't a fraction division. Okay, so these are all equivalent. So if I ask you the ratio of something I would expect that you would write it one of these three ways. I would prefer you to write it either this way or this way. This way is how we say it, and it's okay to write it this way, but it doesn't really show that you're paying too much attention in math. All right, so this way is how we should write it, and this way is how we should write it, okay? Okay, so now I'm going to give you an example that we can use so that we can try and find the ratio of different things, okay? So let's say I have 7 quarters. And let's say I have 3 dimes. And perhaps I have 6 pennies. Okay? So, these items are all very similar. They have something in common, don't they? Think about it. What do they have in common? They're all forms of money. They're all forms of coins, right? But quarters are definitely still different. They're money, just like dimes are, but they're different than dimes, right? Because they're worth different things, right? So we can create ratios for them. So let's create the first ratio, pennies to quarters. All right, well, what I need to do first is I need to look and see how many pennies do I have. Pennies, I have 6. Then I look at how many quarters do I have. Quarters, I have 7. I don't change the order. I write them with the numbers just the way it says it with the words. Okay? So that's the first way to write it. Let's write it the other way that we're supposed to write it. The other way is 6 to 7. And then the third way is 6 to 7. Okay? And again, you just put the first number on top and the second number on bottom. You don't change the order. Work top to bottom just like you would normally do. Left to right, top to bottom. All right, number 2. Let's do quarters to dimes. All right, first number is my quarters. I've got 7 to 3 dimes. And when I write it with a colon, it's 7 to 3. And when I write it as a fraction, it's 7 to 3. And I don't have to simplify that, it's just a ratio, okay? All right, the next 2, I'm going to give them to you, and you're going to go and pause the video, and you're going to try and do them yourself. You're going to find dimes to total coins. And then you're going to find pennies to total coins. Okay, so pause the video and try to do this yourself, and then come back and click play and see if you got it correct. Okay? All right, so hopefully you just came back, and my dimes, I've got 3 dimes. And then my total coins, well, my total coins, these are all coins, aren't they? I have to add the numbers. 7 plus 3 is 10 plus 6 is 16. So it's 3 to 16. And then I would write it like this and like this. And then for the pennies, well, I've got 6 pennies and I still have 16 total coins. So I would write it like this. Okay, hopefully you got that right. Okay, so there's one other thing that I want to explain to you about ratios that I think is helpful for you to know. You can simplify ratios. You don't have to always, but sometimes you do have to do it, and you can simplify them. So let's put a nice little asterisk right there, and we're going to write, we can simplify ratios. Okay, so let's look at our pennies to coins as an example, okay? So our pennies to coins from above. Our answers were 6 to 16, 6 to 16, and 6 over 16, or 6 to 16. So I can simplify this by finding a number that divides into both, the highest number that will divide into both, and I can change my ratio to 3 to 8. Because 2 goes into both numbers. All right, and these are all of them, all equivalent. They're all equivalent because this fraction is equivalent to this fraction, correct? So then this is equivalent, this is equivalent. All right, that is today's lesson. All right, so you're going to get started and work on your activity for ratios. And then tomorrow I will give you part 2 of our ratio lesson.